Recently I came back from a 4-day trip to the Greek island of Santorini, which I was very luckily able to travel to recently given the whole situation with the plague and all that jazz. And of course I took precautions at every step of the way. So I was wearing face mask during all the transit, hand sanitizer everywhere, including on me, getting a COVID test in Greece, which you're required to do, and if you don't take it, you basically don't get into the country. And just general social distancing and staying the F away from people. And that meant this trip was pretty much just 4 days of me, a camera, medium format film, and desperately trying to take pictures that looked halfway decent. So the trip started off with me putting on my face mask, which I was going to be wearing for the next 7 hours, and getting into a taxi to the airport where the driver decided to complain about the government, immigration, cyclists, the government, cycle lanes, pedestrians, immigration, other people on the road, other drivers, other cars, his passenger, and the government, and I believe immigration as well. When I was going through the airport, it was a really strange, weird, kind of creepy experience, mostly because the airport was so empty. It felt like I was there in the middle of the night getting a super late flight, but it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I eventually got to the plane and hopped into my exit row seat that I splashed out on in order to get that comfy leg room, mostly because on Ryanair flights I don't physically fit in the seats because I am a long boy and it's just awful flying with Ryanair in general. I avoid them at all costs, but in this case they're the only operator operating direct flights to Santorini. So after landing in Santorini 4 hours later, I had to get a COVID test going through passport control, taxi to the hotel, and I've ended up in what is essentially the strangest room I've ever stayed in. It had a really weird layout, and also the key it came with was the crappiest security key I have ever seen. So on the first day I decided just to potter around the town of Fira and see what was around, but I very quickly discovered that the town is a paradox, because every direction is uphill. Doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're walking from your hotel to a restaurant, it's uphill, and then you walk uphill back to your hotel. So after realizing that I was going to be walking uphill for the whole trip, I decided to calm myself by walking down the only downhill to the old port, which is about 1,000 steps down a very steep hill. That evening I grabbed the Bronica camera and headed up to an overlook point that I had scouted out during the day and the previous night, and took some sunset shots over the caldera, and then I took some shots of the town of Fira at night. On the second day I decided to do the hike from Fira to Ia, which is a 10-kilometer hike along dusty, rocky, volcanic trails, up and down hills with absolutely no shade in 25-degree heat. It's going to be a long day. Instagram account. Of course, being me, I decided not to bring enough water with me, so about halfway I ran out, but I preserved all the way to the town of Ia, where I found the first shop that would sell me something and just sat outside enjoying it. After that quick power up, I wandered around the town of Ia for a bit, which is a very nice town, but also very stereotypically Instagrammable. And I just decided to play my game of Hun hunting, where I try and find the most stereotypical Instagrammers wandering around the town that I could. So after that, I headed down to the Ia Castle to scout out a location to shoot the sunset from. While waiting for the sunset to arrive, I went and got a power-up club sandwich. And then, once that was finished, I headed down to shoot the actual sunset. The Ia sunset was very beautiful and was quite magical, watching the sun disappear over the horizon and just sort of shrink away to nothingness. After the sunset, I got on a bus back to Fira and then collapsed at my hotel. Day 3 was just mostly a chill out day and nothing much happened. But I did go up to the Blue Dome Church at Fira, found a good vantage point in order to take even more sunset pictures. Just following the bad, they painted arrows. How much further to get to the overlook? And that evening I decided to head out and try and also shoot some star photography over the caldera. That's what I'm looking for. Cable car. See all those people down there drinking, socialising, having fun. Well, they're not up here doing this shit at least. Right. Bird. What? 3, 2, 1. Finished. Close shutter. Pretty easy part where I get to walk downhill back to my hotel and pass the feck out. My final day was kind of awkward because I had a late flight back at 11 o'clock and I had to check out my hotel that morning, so I left the bags in the hotel. So then I got on a bus down to the Black Sand Beach, wandered around there for a few hours and just sort of chilled out. But I did hike up part of the way to ancient Fira, to this old church that's nestled up on the edge of a cliff. Yeah. Church on the hill. After getting up there, I got some nice views out over the town. Okay, this is some steep ass pathways. So I'm not going to film it, so I have two hands to catch myself from falling, fail, and death. After that, I headed down to the black sand beach for a few hours, stuffed my face, got a bus back to Fira, grabbed my gear, and then headed to the airport. While waiting for the airport bus, a bird decided to drop a nice fresh load on my camera bag. So that was a cool parting gift, I guess. And that was my short trip to Santorini. Now, while I did enjoy my trip to Santorini immensely, I also know that my experience was very atypical because of the pandemic. There was very few people around and it wasn't very crowded. I know that Santorini before the pandemic was having huge issues with over-tourism and it was just super crowded and damaging to the island. But I managed to go during a period of downtime and I did enjoy it. But once the pandemic is over, I will probably never return because of the over-tourism issues that I generally don't enjoy when I'm traveling. So that's it for this video, guys. See you next time.